Genesis chapter 4, let's get right into it. Verse 1, and Adam knew Eve, his woman, his wife. Adam had known, it's a perfect form verb, it's completed action. Eve, his wife, when had he known her? When did he knew her? Because knew isn't wrong, it's just he knew her when they partook of the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. To think that Adam just stood there and twiddled his thumbs, no. And the proof in the pudding, so to speak, is in verse 16. The word for children, where it says she will bear children, is banim. Look it up in your Strongs. Sons. Because of what took place when they partook of that fruit with seeds in it, they made her pregnant. Not literally, but it's a analogy or a symbolic of reproduction. It says that she would bring forth sons after it happened. So let's read this right. And Adam had known Eve, his wife, when they partook of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. He participated. And she conceived. What happened when she conceived? It says she would bear children, or banim, sons. Again, look it up. And bear Cain, and said, I have gotten a man from the Lord. Verse 2, and she continued in labor. Look that word again up. Okay? She conceived, and she would have sons in verse 16, Genesis 3:16. She would have twins. One by Cain was the child of the serpent, and Adam's child was Abel. She continued in labor and bare his brother Abel, and Abel was a keeper of sheep, but Cain was a tiller of the ground, just like his dad, Adam. Verse 3, and in process of time it came to pass that Cain brought of the fruit of the ground an offering unto the Lord. So it's very important that you understand from the Hebrew that this is a completed action. It had already happened in Genesis chapter 3, verse 16. Eve became pregnant with Cain by the serpent, and she became pregnant with Abel from Adam. And then in verse 16 it says, in sorrow she will bring forth sons. Again, look up children in your Strongs. And I might have over talked about that, but it's that simple. And it's important that you understand that in the Hebrew. Verse 4, and Abel, he also brought of the firstlings of his flock and of the fat thereof. They both reached the age of accountability at the same time because they were twins. Got it? It's really that simple. And the Lord had respect unto Abel and to his offering. It was the firstlings of his flock. Verse 5, but unto Cain, Abel's twin brother by a different father, the serpent, Satan, and to his offering he had not respect, and Cain was very wroth, and his countenance fell. The Hebrew reads, his faces were fallen, I believe. Don't quote me. Check it out. Verse 6, and the Lord said unto Cain, why art thou wroth, and why is thy countenance fallen? 7, if thou doest well, shalt thou not be accepted? Even the descendants of Cain, a Kenite, modern day, if they become a believer in the Lord Jesus Christ, are grafted in to the family of Christ, the tree of life. Throw that in there. And if thou doest not well, sin lieth at the door, and unto thee shall be his desire, and thou shalt rule over him. Verse 8, and Cain talked with Abel his brother. And it came to pass when they were in the field that Cain rose up against Abel his brother and slew him. The Septuagint has this worded a little different. And I'm going from memory here. It shows premeditation in the Septuagint. Cain says, let's go out in the field, Abel. He lured him out into the field to kill him. Verse 9, and the Lord said unto Cain, where is Abel thy brother? And he said, I know not. Am I my brother's keeper? I'm going to go back to this verse 8 here. And we're just going to go right to the commandments. Thou shalt not kill. That doesn't mean people that are fighting in war and in battle. who are killing the enemy, serving their country. And the nuts and the bolts for that is the word murder. Thou shalt do no murder in the Greek, which is phonions. I'm pretty sure. Don't quote me on that. I don't have my page up here to look at it, but it's premeditated criminal homicide. It shows premeditation, just like in the Septuagint. Cain says to Abel, hey, let's go out in the field. He had it all in his head that he was going to kill Abel. And he said, I know not, am I my brother's keeper? I think I lost my place. But anyhow, there we are. And he said, nah, I know not, am I my brother's keeper? He's lying. God knew he was lying. Verse 10, and he said, what hast thou done? The voice of thy brother's blood crieth unto me from the ground. Cries on to him because Abel was right there with God after he died. He knew what happened instantly. When Abel died, he was instantly with the Father. Verse 11, and now art thou cursed from the earth, which hath opened her mouth to receive thy brother's blood from thy hand. Verse 12, when thou tillest the ground, it shall not henceforth yield unto thee her strength. They can't be farmers to this day. I'm going to throw that in there. And let's get to the next part. A fugitive and a vagabond shalt thou be in the earth. The descendants of Cain have been expelled from every country they've ever gone to, wandering to and fro through the earth, just like God said they would. See, I wonder if Cain is the child of the serpent here, and if the Bible's true. Absolutely is. His descendants were the ones in the crowd shouting, crucify him, and they control the whole world today. They make up 2% of the population. Is the Bible true? Yes, absolutely. Verse 13, and Cain said unto the Lord, my punishment is greater than I can bear. Verse 14, behold, thou hast driven me out this day from the face of the earth, and from thy face shall I be hid. And I shall be a fugitive and a vagabond in the earth. And again, they've been expelled from every country they've ever settled in, wandering all over the place. I'll throw in the word Khazar, Khazar, and do your own research on that. And we'll go from there. And it shall come to pass that every one that findeth me shall slay me. Verse 15, and the Lord said unto him, therefore whoever slayeth Cain, vengeance shall be taken upon him sevenfold. And the Lord set a mark upon Cain, lest any finding him should kill him. That's a whole other topic for a whole other time. I'm not going to get into that. Verse 16, and Cain went out from the presence of the Lord and dwelt in the land of Nod on the east of Eden. Verse 17, and Cain knew his wife. Wait a minute, where did he find a wife if Adam was the first man created? Because Adam wasn't the first man created. Go back a few videos. The races were created on the sixth day. God rested the seventh, and then he created Adam. In a kindergarten class way, it's easy to understand that. That's where his wife came from. And she conceived and bare Enoch. This is not the Enoch that walked with God. This is a different Enoch. They copy the names of the true Israelite people. They've been doing it for generations. And he builded a city and called the name of the city after the name of his son Enoch. Verse 18, this is going to get boring, but we'll read it. And unto Enoch was born Irad, and Irad begot Mahujael, and Mahujael begot Methusael, and Methusael begot Lamech. And again, they copy the Israelite names all through the Bible. That's the role that God intends for them to play, the negative part of the overall plan of God. They exist today. Any preacher tells you that they don't have any concept of the reality of the Bible. And Lamech took out unto him two wives. The name of the one was Ada, and the name of the other is Zillah. So we're looking at Cain's genealogy. I'm going to point that out too, because when you read Adam's genealogy, you're not going to find Cain in it. Why? Because Cain was not Adam's child. Further documenting it, Bible documents that Cain was the child of Satan over and over and over again. So you can't get confused. Unless you want to listen to your preacher and say, oh, that be that serpent seed doctrine. We don't follow that. What he's really saying is we don't go by what the Bible says. We make up our own ideas like an Apple story. Now, it might seem like I'm really hard on Christians. I'm not trying to be hard on anybody. But I will speak the truth until the day I take my last breath. If people get offended by it, that's not my problem. I will continue to speak the truth as it is written. Verse 21, and his brother's name was Jubal. There's no J in Hebrew, by the way. You throw that out there. And the word Jesus was a Hebrew child, and the J doesn't exist. It's just the way it was translated. The word for the true name for Jesus is Yeshua or Yeshua. He was the father of all such as handle the harp and organ. Can't farm, remember. 22, and Zillah, she also bare Tubal-Cain, an instructor of every artificer of brass and iron, and the sister of Tubal-Cain was Naamah. Verse 23, and Lamech said unto his wives, Ada and Zillah, hear my voice, ye wives of Lamech, hearken unto my speech. For I have slain a man to my wounding, and a young man to my hurt. They're murderers to this day. They murder everybody. They've murdered the prophets all the way on up through the Bible, and they've caused every war that you can think of for personal gain, for wealth and personal gain. That too is a whole other topic for a whole other time. Verse 24, if Cain, the word for Kenite in the Hebrew is Cain, or Cain, properly pronounced. The word for Cain is Cain too, same name. You can't go wrong there either. I know they have him dying off during the flood. That's a lie. Right in the grammar, it's documented. Shall be avenged sevenfold. Truly Lamech 70 and sevenfold. Okay. Verse 25, and Adam knew his wife again, and she bare a son, and called his name Seth. For God said, she hath appointed me another seed. Again, that word seed, what does that mean? Fruit? Or is it a spiritual thing? No, it's offspring, descendants. Just like in chapter 3, verse 15. Instead of Abel, who Cain slew, verse 26, and to Seth, to him also there was born a son, and he called his name Enos. Then began men to call upon the name of the Lord. There's an interesting thing in the Hebrew here, and it's going to be very hard to explain. It could read, and men began to profane the name of Yahweh, or Yahweh, whichever way you want to pronounce it. Don't get into debate over how it's pronounced. God's not going to say, oh, you pronounced the sacred name wrong. You get over there in hell and torment because of it. That needs to stop, too. I'm going to do a whole video on that, too, because there is no difference. Dialect different. Anyhow, way too much talking here. When we get into Adam's genealogy, you're going to find out that Cain's not in it. We saw Cain's genealogy already, a portion of it. They're separate genealogies because Cain was the child of Satan, the serpent. And to go back here, Cain premeditated murder on Abel. If you go to get you the Septuagint or look one up online and look up that verse. I think it was verse 8. But let's just conclude this, and we'll get into chapter 5 here probably tomorrow.